We've taken sort of third world engineers who, quite frankly, I've seen statistics. There's a company that actually like measures how much people lie on their coding interviews. And believe it or not, guess which one the highest, mode response cheaters are from? It's definitely India.
Mark Mitchell, this is a hot button issue. Let me just be blunt about H-1Bs and for Elon. Dude, you said that's a hill you're going to die on originally when I ripped your face off about this. It's not going to be reformed. It can't be reformed. It's a scam from start to finish. It has to be abolished. This is one of the things that young people are so, and particularly, Mark, the young people who buy into the system. Remember, to become a tech worker in modern America, you have to be like the kid getting math right in science and technology, not poetry or not football, although tons of tech workers have played sports. But you have to be dedicated to understand STEM. You have to dedicate your life to do it. Then you get into college, right? And then you got to do great in high school. You got to ace the SATs. You got to do great. You have to be these engineers, computer scientists, people that are on it. Then you got to get into a college, of which now all the colleges are either Chinese or South Asian. I went to a land-grant university as an undergraduate. And today in the engineering department, you see that. In the graduate program is 100%. It blocks out Hispanic Americans, African Americans, white Americans, Asian Americans, anybody called an American, you don't get into these schools. And if you don't get in the schools, then you can't get into Silicon Valley. We have 12 million STEM, tech workers in the United States that don't have work. Until we get them jobs, we're not doing our job. And here's the thing, if H-1Bs, and I keep saying, show me a billet that they have a higher education or better job thing for that billet. It doesn't exist. This is all about paying one group a third of what you pay the other group with no benefits, and they're living 10 to a condo in Silicon Valley. And as indentured servants, I thought we got rid of indentured servants back in the 18th century or 19th century in America. What are we doing? Mitchell, is this one of the things that drives young people crazy? They can't get opportunities in a post-industrial high-tech world because we're inviting the world here. A world who hasn't done anything for the United States of America, hasn't lifted a finger, and comes here and all they do is and moan about how the U.S. citizens not giving them everything, sir.
Yeah, 100%. The entire world is a bunch of deadbeats, and the American taxpayer has been funding these people. You have Western Europe with NATO, and we're funding proxy wars. You have Africa with USAID and all the government backing. Then you have places like China where we're offshoring all the manufacturing, and that's been brutal for the American workers. And then you have places like India with combined offshoring and remittances is taking up $150 billion roughly annually over economic value. But then you have all of the people that we imported from India who are taking up even more. And so what's wild to me is that, yes, people don't understand the H-1B program. It's popular because they don't understand it's being abused. But if you promise the American dream, and if that got you a 60% approval rating with under 40 voters, and this is the biggest thing affecting them, then as the leader of the free world, you have to understand that and cut these deadbeats off, because it is 100% a scam. My previous job was leading a big team inside Walmart e-commerce, and I saw it firsthand. You can bleep this out. I'm going to use a bad word, but there's a term in Silicon Valley called inification. And that's when you make a really great product, you got all your customers hooked, and then over time, the business interests, the MBA, say, well, you know what, we got to squeeze another dollar out of that. And so you make the product a little bit worse. You cut corners. You don't do as much QA. Well, what we have now is cultural inification, because basically we've taken sort of third world engineers who, quite frankly, I've seen statistics. There's a company that actually like measures how much people lie on their coding interviews, and believe it or not, guess which one the highest, mode response cheaters are from? It's definitely India. And they come over here, they get a rubber stamp process, they come right on in through pipelines that have been built hand in hand with the government, corporate America, and big college. Big college feeds off of these people because they use these MBA mills, and they take these amazing jobs. And what blows my mind is that if you look still at a Trump administration, you can tell. Look at Fox. That's great. Like Will Cain, Laura Ingraham, those are the only two names I've seen who are actually even willing to broach this topic. And I think Trump's probably surrounded by a bunch of people who are giving him billionaire talking points about how they have to defend it. But 99% of it is fraud. And we focused on getting rid of the illegal immigrants. I think that's a really big deal, obviously. Flaunting the rule of law, flooding our country with drugs and basically Venezuelan gang members. It's not a good thing. We should fix that. But for every single H-1B senior developer at Apple that we send back, that's the equivalent economically probably of deporting 10 illegal aliens. So I don't know why we didn't do that yesterday. And the idea, yes, a lot of these people are entry level, but a lot of them are making a ton of money. You know, Silicon Valley's got some of the highest real estate, the highest real estate in the entire country. Well, its workforce is roughly 2/3 foreign born. And where are most of those people coming from? They're India, because Walmart had buildings, engineering buildings that were like 85, 90, 95% Indian nationals. And so they come in on these, you know, these golden pathways. They take these jobs. I think a lot of it is used for ageism because you have a bottomless well of younger third world engineers. People might like me who have a family who are a little more expensive, maybe have gotten a few raises. My health insurance is a little more expensive. Really easy to replace me and have me train my replacement. And then I get in and I see, you know, Walmart had a lot of problems with e-commerce. Yeah, go ahead.
No, this is why when you poll these kids, young people, and they say, well, you know, maybe we turn it over to the machine, or I hate capitalism. We had Mandami there in the open. Mandami is, as I called it, he's in a sanctuary city. He's daring the president of the United States. He's daring Kristi Noem and Tom Homan to come in and basically make that part of the United States. And he's sitting there telling the illegal alien invaders, who are essentially that in the legal migrants we brought in under these scams, that's what voted for him. He's saying, hey, I got your back, and Trump's not going to do anything. If Kristi Noem comes here, I'm going to throw her out. And if Tom Homan comes here, I'm going to arrest him. He's being as brazen as possible because that's their voting base. What Mark Mitchell just said a second ago about the H-1B, don't take it from Mark Mitchell and Steve Bannon. Go to Jessica Vaughn at CIS. Well, I think we got to break down her podcast. She had a podcast where had a guy who worked, it was Indian, who worked at the consulate, and I think in Mumbai, because they have 12 consulates. You know, Sergio's the ambassador, but they have 12 consulates. And he said, this is the guy that did it. He said the entire thing's a scam. It's all kickbacks. Indian companies doing kickbacks. Guys in the consulate are getting kickbacks because the whole country's based on, wait for it, kickbacks. Okay? He says it's just the way they do it. And he said 2/3, I think, of the people just made up their resumes. When I say there's not a guy filling a billet that an American couldn't fill because education training, remember, 2/3 coming from India. The Indians are saying they just make it up. And this is why you have these huge complaints in Silicon Valley, and they just churn through it. So a lot of these guys get there, they can't handle the job, they're gone, and they bring in more. Mark Mitchell.
Yeah, I mean, I'm generally very worried about corporate culture, the way that I saw things. I was a hiring manager there, so I filtered through the stacks of resumes. And yes, there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Indian resumes. Many of them had like a follow-on master's that they got in the United States, applying for every job that was out there. But there were 100% domestic qualified people for every single role that I found. Now, here's the thing, though. If you're a pedantic hiring Karen and you very clearly want to act as a gatekeeper and force an H-1B, it's really easy to put things in the job description that, quite frankly, in my opinion and in my experience, most domestic workers wouldn't lie on the resume to hit that requirement. And, you know, then you find the Indian resumes getting hired. And I'm sorry. That's just what happens in practice. And that's how you get buildings that are 90% foreign national in engineering. Yes.
And this is why kids,
people, they hire very nepotistic, yes. Very big at finding a problem and trying to build out teams and build fiefdoms within these companies, and they've taken over most Fortune 500s. I don't know what a world with India would look like. We would be screwed.
It's got to all be blown out. You got to do it. And Mitchell, you talk about institutions that work. The British became an empire because they had an institution that's pretty unique in human history, the Royal Navy. I've gone through, and when I was one of the reasons I wanted to go in the Navy, Nelson and the Royal Navy and the American Navy were always my heroes as a kid. And if you look at the institution of the Royal Navy, it's unbelievable what the Royal Navy did on a very small island to essentially take over the world. The strategy behind it and the execution of it and the discipline and the systems they had to have excellence over centuries. You came from also an institution, not simply the United States Navy, but a subset of it, the Nuclear Navy. And Hyman Rickover, or the submarine Navy, and of course part of it's diesel boat, but most of it's the Nuclear Navy. I made a film with Michael Pact, the anti-Semite Steve Bannon. I made a film about Hyman Rickover. And I made a film about Hyman Rickover because I saw a poll that showed one time only 5%, 3% of the American people knew who he was. He's one of the greatest giants of the 20th century. We would not be free people today if it was less Hyman Rickover. And he built an institution so you can't tell me engineers can't. We don't have the engineering expertise around the nuclear navy that's never really had an accident and has kept this country safe for, 60, 70, 80 years. It's 60 or 70 years. It's unbelievable what he accomplished. And that example of the nuclear navy is an institution with traditions and customs and mores and requirements and accountability that raises it to a level of one of the great institutions in the world. This is what Americans are capable of. It is unacceptable for us to be bringing in the third world into like these Somalians into Minneapolis, into Maine, into these great parts of the country, and destroying them as you're paying for it. Just like it's not acceptable to be bringing the third world in here to take our engineering jobs. The Americans are the greatest set of engineers in the world. We went to the moon. This is why I play the right stuff at the end of each hour, to remind people of the greatness of this country and the greatness of the people in this country, and particularly the greatness of the engineers in our country and the computer scientists and the grit and determination of those people. Remember, this is the great crime. You're taking people that from very little kids, didn't focus in poetry and in history and English, which are all great, but doesn't require that daily rigor that you have to be a computer scientist, to be an engineer. Think about it. Everybody that went to college and wanted to be an engineer, and you had that opening class of 5-hour calculus. I remember at my school, a third of the engineers were gone in the first 6 weeks. Why? They wanted to party at the frat, or first time they were away from home, they wanted to go out and get drunk every night. You can't do that when you're an engineer. We've taken those people and told them, you're not worthy. We're going to bring in the third world, which are not up to their standards. Of course, this is driving people insane. And then the young people say, let's just turn it over to the algorithm. Let's turn it over to AI.